of what happened. We're not really. All we want them to do is to say, we did that to you, we shouldn't have done. We're sorry, and now we'll start looking after you.
The Ministry of Defence believes there is no hard evidence of a link between the veterans' ill health and exposure to radiation. 7 years ago, it commissioned a study of test veterans' health. After that study, it admitted a possible link between radiation and only 2 cancers, leukemia and multiple myeloma, but said there was no proof. The study, carried out by the National Radiological Protection Board, has been severely criticised. It only looked at veterans who had died, not those in ill health. The details of 1 in 6 men were not studied at all. It was based on inadequate records of radiation doses, and included many veterans who were at no risk from radiation whatsoever. Studies of American nuclear veterans have also found no conclusive link between radiation exposure and illness. But the US government gave its ex-servicemen the benefit of the doubt. It now pays compensation to veterans with any of 15 different cancers. MP Bob Clay tried to get the same deal for British veterans with a private member's bill, but his bill never got to a vote.
It brought it home to me what a huge conspiracy there is in the Ministry of Defence to stop this issue being dealt with. Now, I should say that even if that bill had been successful, it was only dealing with a small part of the problem, because apart from the cancers that the American legislation covers, it's absolutely clear to me that there are many other things, for instance cataracts, various bone diseases and so on, that our test veterans are suffering from. I'm familiar with a lot of the veterans themselves. You go to meetings and you hear them talking about who they've lost over the previous 6 months or a year. When you start looking at the effect on children, it's quite terrifying, and you just wonder how far it all goes.
Give me an E string on there, Donna.
Until now, no one has carried out an in-depth study of the nuclear veterans' children. But tonight, Northern Eye can reveal the results of a 6-month investigation into their health. Statistician John Urquhart validated our survey.
Same pattern again with the child.
Yeah.
And this actually came from the father very recently.
There's another melanoma.
Yeah, that's a different melanoma.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The health details were analysed, double-checked and fed into our computer. We studied the records of 1,147 members of the Test Veterans Association who were fathers. These men had 2,544 children conceived after the bombs were tested. Of these children, 265 had cancers, deformities and other conditions which could have been genetically passed down from their fathers. That's more than 1 in 10. But was there a danger of bias in our sample? Had people only joined the Veterans Association because of death or child illness in the family? Urquhart looked at test veterans who had joined in good health. That sample couldn't be biased.
The most important test that we did on the cancers was to look at the men who joined in good health and see whether they got cancer later. And what we did was we got a list of men who developed cancer after they joined. And we found that there was an excess of cancer over what we would expect. And that was particularly true in the younger men. For the men who joined before the age of 50, we would expect about between 2 and 3 cases. In fact, we got 11 cases in the last 5 or 6 years, which is 4 times what you would expect. And the probability of that happening by chance is 1 in 10,000. So it's a very dramatic result, that.
What did the survey reveal about the children?
Again, we had a problem. We didn't know whether these families had joined because they had malformed children. So we looked at the problem in another way. We looked at the children who were the first child to be conceived after the test, and we looked at subsequent children. And what we found was, and this is a very important result, we found that the first child to be conceived after the test had a much greater chance of one of these illnesses than in subsequent children.
Last year, Professor Martin Gardner had linked radiation to leukemias in the children of Sellafield workers. His theory was that a high dose of radiation damaged a father's sperm. Northern Eye's investigation suggests something even worse, that children conceived soon after their fathers returned from the bomb tests may be suffering from a whole range of diseases and deformities.
We had this increase in congenital malformations and other genetically linked diseases in the first child after the tests. And that is very, very important, because not only is it important for the families who are worried and want to know why their children have got these genetic effects, but from a scientific point of view, it advances the argument.
For a second expert opinion, Northern Eye took its research findings to the Centre for Industrial Safety and Health in London. The centre does research into the health risks faced by groups of workers and their children. We asked Claire Marie Fortin to investigate the rare cancers we found among the veterans' children and analyse the wide range of congenital conditions found in our study.
There appeared to be, in this set of data, an unusually high occurrence of congenital malformations. We know that congenital malformations sadly happen in the general population. We know that cancer is a disease of the 20th century, and we know someone who's died of it. So there are cases of cancer, congenital malformation, diseases, you name it, that already exist as part of the background of our lives. And so what I was actually looking for was an increased occurrence of those particular events.
Fortin tested our findings on congenital abnormalities to make sure they weren't biased. Our results came from the children of 1,100 veterans. Fortin studied those results as if they'd come from the children of all 27,000 veterans. This meant the number of abnormalities was diluted over 20 times. She still found the rate of most abnormalities was higher than normal.
I thought, what if this had come from another occupational group? I'd have been shocked. I wouldn't have expected that scale of, that range actually is the word I'm looking for, that range of experience amongst the offspring.
What stood out in the results of the survey?
I think the most significant result in that survey are in fact the adrenal cancers. There were 4 adrenal cancers, 2 of which were neuroblastomas. Now, they're actually quite rare amongst children, and as a result, the fact that there were 4 in such a small group is quite astonishing. And so I wanted to test that and to see if it was really as astonishing as it seemed.
Again, Fortin applied the severest test to Northern Eye's figures in case our sample was biased. We had found 4 adrenal cancers in just 2,500 children. Fortin assumed those 4 rare cancers had been found in a study of all the veterans' children, 67,500 of them. This total number of children was a deliberate overestimate. Even when measured in that much bigger group of children, the number of adrenal cancers was 8 times higher than normal.
That's an amazing statistic. Now, again, one has to be very careful because we don't know if these adrenal cancers were primary cancers or secondary cancers. A lot of research's got to go into this again. But just on the face of it, those cancers are quite alarming. Bells should be ringing somewhere that there's a real problem here.
What do you believe are the implications of these results?
Well, obviously we've got to have a national survey to confirm these results. But it's got to be done by a body who is seen as being totally independent, and it's got to be done in a detailed way, in a way that people can understand and accept. And I think if that is done, then I think we would have done something very important.
Are you going to take them off the telly?
Who's that one? Who's that one? Yeah.
It makes me wonder what the situation will be like in 100 years' time. Among the nuclear test veterans' children, their great-great-great-grandchildren, what is going to be the true effects, say, 100 years' time?
No, don't get them.
Not just us. Nuclear power plant workers, it's happening there as well. We the forerunners, should be taking an example of what's happened to us and make sure it's not going to happen to anybody else. Stacey, in the photograph.